To begin working on your step value scale, you first need to draw it in. So I usually take a ruler and I draw a line that's about 7 inches long in the middle of my paper. And then to make sure that each block is a square inch, then you'll line up your ruler with the edge of that line and you'll draw an inch in the other direction, along with the other side as well. And then you will just connect those two lines to make a 1 inch by 7 inch long rectangle. So my 7-step value scale will fit into that. And now I need to just make the steps, so I'm just making little tick marks on the bottom of the value scale and on the top as well. And then all I need to do is just connect those tick marks with the ruler. So that way I get nice, straight, crisp and clear lines for my value scale. So by the end you should have 7 squares. They should be squares, they should be all lined up right next to each other. One side will be black, and it'll be the darkest black you can draw. The other side will be left white. So that makes it easy. That white square you don't even have to do anything with. So you'll probably want to gather up your pencils. I'm using a 6B right now. And instead of coloring in side to side, it's best to color in circular motions, so that way you can get a nice even coloring. And instead of holding the pencil on the tip to create a lighter value, you'll hold the pencil near the point to create a darker value. So I like to work on the black first, just to give me a reference to work on the stuff in between. And so notice that I'm coloring in a circular motion instead of going side to side. This will get rid of some banding and discoloration, and it'll create a nice even value area. So I'm outlining the box, and I'll just color it in pretty so that it's pretty dark. So at this point my black is all filled in pretty nicely and evenly, so I'm going to start working on some of the lighter values now. So I'm going to use my 2B pencil. I'm going to hold it at the opposite end of the point, so that way I can create a really light value. And I'm not pressing very hard, just pressing really lightly. And if you can see, I'm creating just a really very light value. And so drawing this way to create light values reduces pressure on the pencil, and you can get really nice evenly colored light values if you hold the pencil towards the end like I'm doing. So one of the tricks to this value scale, at least the 7-step one, is to get equal increments of value. And so I find it easy to start with the blackest one and then move over to the lighter values and then try and get equal steps in between as I work on all of them. So I'm just cleaning up the edges now. I'm cleaning up the spots where I went a little bit too dark. Probably going to have to go over them again. And that's okay. You might have to do that as well. Because remember, we're trying to get even values with each step. So I'm going to use this chamois to blend my value, and that's actually another thing that you can use to blend value other than your finger blending tortillon or tissue. And so that worked pretty well. So now I need to try and make those values meet in the middle. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to use the same pencil, and I'm basically going to carry that light value over all across all of the squares. And then I'm going to gradually, with each square that moves closer to the black one, I'm going to start adding more pressure and more value while coloring evenly. Notice how I'm blending as I go. And so I have that one square that's kind of now, all those values are moved over. And so now I just need to start darkening up each square as it moves closer to the black. So I will try to kind of move in increments. And if you get lost at this point, you can always compare your drawing to the value scale online on Canvas. But basically, you just need to get a little bit darker each time until you reach the black. And then as soon as you're finished, your square should kind of progress evenly. Like there shouldn't be a sudden jump from black to white or black to light gray. And so try and get an even progression of steps. So I noticed that those two middle squares are probably a little bit too close. Well, they're actually, one's probably a little bit too dark. So I'm going to start working on the square closest to the black square, get that one to a darkness that I like. Basically, you just need to start adding squares in between, and then once you're finished, you can evaluate and see if the steps go in an equal order. So I'm erasing that middle square because I think I drew it in too dark. Basically, you're just going to add and take away values until you have an even progression of steps. You'll want to blend in your values. And you'll also probably want to clean up the edges if you go out of the squares a little bit. And this will give you some good practice on creating values. So now I'm working on creating my gradation value scale, and I'm going to draw in the value scale the same way, except I'm not going to make the boxes in the middle. I'm just going to make a big rectangle, and I'm going to label one side black and one side white. And then I'm just going to start adding in the lightest values possible. And then they'll slowly get darker once they go over to the black side. This value scale is different because instead of moving in steps, it'll just blend from black to white. And there should be an even progression of blending, and I shouldn't really be able to pinpoint an exact point of where the values change from black to white. It should just be an even flowing progression. And so notice that I'm just gradually getting darker with my values. I'm drawing in some really dark ones at the end to kind of have a gauge for me to know that I need to get that dark by the time I hit the other side. So notice here that I'm making marks. These are where there are clear transitions, and I need to get rid of those. So I need to blend those a little bit better. And so to do that, I'm just kind of blending each area. I'm adding more value, and I'm erasing some parts, because we really want to get rid of those lines, or as I call them, banding, because your eye can really pick them out and they're not going to be blended very well. And so this will give you some really great practice on blending your values and creating dark and light values as well. So I'm cleaning up the edges now, and then I'm looking for more banding. So if you see any, you can blend that area, you can color in that area a little bit more to get rid of that harsh line. Notice that I just created a harsh line with that dark value as well, so I'll have to try and get rid of that by coloring it in a little bit. And I'm just adding some darker value. So that is how you will create your step value scale and your gradation value scale. And this will give you some great practice on blending and creating different values.